Elena had always imagined funerals as quiet, reverent moments, somber but peaceful. Her husband's, however, felt nothing like peace. The air in the chapel was thick, almost suffocating, heavy with the scent of lilies and morning candles. Every whisper, every shuffle of feet, every sympathetic sigh brushed against her nerves like sandpaper. She sat in the front row, rigid and hollow, staring at the polished mahogany coffin that hid the man she had shared 12 years of her life with. They had told her the casket had to remain closed. The accident was too severe, the medical examiner had said, avoiding her eyes. It's better this way. Everyone else accepted the explanation. Everyone except her. Something about it gnawed at her, a small but persistent tug behind her ribs. Daniel was always so careful, so cautious. The idea of him dying in a fiery crash felt wrong. But grief made people imagine strange things, she told herself. She tried to drown the doubts beneath the waves of sorrow. Around her, people moved like ghosts. Daniel's mother dabbed her eyes daintily, though she kept glancing at Elena with something sharper than grief. His brother stood stiffly, as though afraid the coffin might open at any moment. Even his business partner, Victor, looked nervous, checking his watch more often than paying attention to the priest's words. Elena clasped her shaking hands together, forcing herself to breathe slowly. She needed to get through this. She needed to say goodbye, even if it didn't feel real. Then her phone vibrated gently in her purse. She almost ignored it. Mourning widows weren't supposed to check messages, but something compelled her hand. She slid the phone out, expecting another condolence. Instead, her heart stopped. Her vision blurred. A known number. I'm alive. Don't trust anyone. For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. The room around her dimmed, the murmurs fading into a distant hum. Her fingers tightened around the phone until her knuckles turned white. Daniel, alive? Watching? And if she shouldn't trust anyone, then who in this room was lying to her? The funeral had never been about grief. It was a warning, a beginning, a trap. Elena stepped out of the chapel and let the heavy wooden door close behind her, muffling the priest's voice and the soft chorus of whispered prayers. The cool air outside hit her like a slap, sharp enough to steady her trembling hands. She gripped a stone railing, trying to anchor herself, but her thoughts spun wildly like leaves in a storm. The message burned in her mind. I'm alive. Don't trust anyone. Her husband's words or someone pretending to be him. But the phrasing, the abruptness, the lack of greetings or explanations. It was also distinctly Daniel. He always texted like he was short on time, like every second mattered. She unlocked her phone again, her thumb numb against the screen. The message remained there, taunting her. A number with no name, no profile picture, just emptiness. Elena typed back slowly, choosing each word as though it could avoid shattering her entire life. If this is you, prove it. Where are you? The message showed delivered. Then nothing. No 3 dots. No reply. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears as she walked toward the parking lot, needing distance, needing space to think. Every detail of the past week resurfaced details she'd brushed aside while drowning in shock. The officer who informed her of the crash had looked nervous, almost guilty. He never met her eyes. The insurance agent handling the paperwork had been disturbingly quick. And the medical examiner, God, the medical examiner, he had rushed her through the identification process, murmuring that the body was beyond recognition, offering condolences but never letting her see even a fragment. Why hadn't she insisted? Why had she allowed herself to be shepherded like a lamb through every step? Grief, she told herself. Shock. The world had moved too fast for her to keep up. But now, with that one text, everything clicked into place. The unanswered questions, the discomfort, the strange tension in Daniel's business circle. She opened her phone's call history. A missed call from an unknown number last night. She hadn't noticed it through her sleepless haze. She tapped it, and her breath caught when she saw the metadata. The number matched the one that had just texted her. And worse, Daniel's own phone number, supposedly destroyed in the crash, had pinged a cell tower near the outskirts of the city 12 hours earlier. Her stomach dropped. Someone had lied to her. But who? And why? A passing car startled her, snapping her back to the present. She realized the chapel doors had opened again. People were spilling out, heading toward her. Daniel's mother, Victor, the police chief, Their faces were masks of concern, but now she saw something else beneath them, a glint of calculation. Watching her, measuring her, Elena wiped her tears abruptly and straightened her shoulders. The message had changed everything. She couldn't let them see her panic. She couldn't let them know she knew. The grieving widow act was over. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was the one being hunted, and it was time to hunt back. Elena returned to the chapel, her face carefully composed in a mask of sorrow, though inside her mind was a storm. Every step she took felt heavier, as if the polished floor itself resisted her presence. She sank back into her seat at the front row, pretending to listen to the priest's soft words about eternity and the soul's journey. Around her, people murmured condolences, but her ears were tuned to a different frequency now. Every whisper, every cough, every glance had a new meaning. Victor, Daniel's business partner, was on his phone again, his fingers tapping furiously. Elena caught the reflection of the screen in the polished pew and saw numbers, addresses and names she didn't recognize. His lips moved in a tight line, as though he were muttering threats or instructions. Daniel's brother sat with his hands folded rigidly in front of him, avoiding Elena's gaze completely. Even her best friend, Claire, fidgeted, looking like she had swallowed something bitter. Elena's phone buzzed in her purse. She slipped it out casually, pretending to check the time. The screen flashed a single GPS pin. She froze. The location was deep in the forest outside the city, an isolated cabin she and Daniel had visited years ago. A place so private he had sworn it would remain their secret. Her pulse quickened. Why now? Why send her there? Before she could think, a firm hand touched her shoulder. She flinched and turned. The police chief stood there, his uniform impeccable, his smile polite but too controlled to be genuine. "Mrs. Hale," he said smoothly, his voice low so only she could hear. "We'll need you to come by the station later for a few final questions." "Final questions?" she echoed, her stomach twisting. "After the funeral?" "Yes," he said, glancing around as if to ensure no one overheard. "It's procedural, nothing to worry about." But Elena felt the lie resonate in every word. Final questions. After the funeral, coincidence didn't exist in her world anymore. Her eyes flicked back to the GPS pin. She had a choice. Follow the trail Daniel had left, risking whoever was watching, or stay here, pretending to mourn, knowing someone in this very room had already lied to her. Her fingers tightened around her phone. A slow, deadly resolve settled in her chest. She would go to that cabin. She would find Daniel, alive or dead, and uncover the truth. And she would do it without alerting anyone in the chapel. Because one thing was already clear. Someone didn't want her alive when she reached the end of the trail. Elena exhaled sharply, forcing herself to calm her racing heart. The funeral continued, the priest's voice droning on. But to Elena, it had become background noise. Every step she took, every glance she made, was calculated, precise. She wasn't just a widow anymore. She was a woman walking into a trap, and she intended to turn the trap back on those who laid it. Elena drove through the winding forest roads, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. The sun had set hours ago, leaving only the pale glow of the moon to illuminate the trees, their long shadows stretching across the asphalt like fingers reaching for her. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig under her tires made her heart jump. She told herself to stay calm. Daniel was alive. He had sent her here. She just had to find him. The cabin emerged through the mist, just as she remembered it. Weathered wooden planks, a sagging porch, and the faint outline of the chimney against the night sky. It was exactly the kind of secluded place Daniel would choose to hide. The kind of place nobody else would find. She killed the engine and sat for a moment, listening. Silence, only the whisper of wind through the pines. Her phone buzzed again. She jumped and nearly dropped it. The screen lit up. Daniel inside. Hurry. Elena swallowed hard, her mind racing. Danger was real, immediate. And yet, for the first time since the funeral, she felt a flicker of hope. Daniel wasn't dead. But if they were here, the people who faked his death, they wouldn't let her leave easily. She nodded, gripping his hand tightly. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's go." Outside, the forest seemed to close in around them, shadows growing darker, more threatening. Every second counted. The nightmare of the funeral had only led them here, but the real danger was just beginning. Daniel pulled Elena close, his grip tight, his eyes scanning the dark forest outside the cabin windows. The lantern light flickered across his face, highlighting exhaustion and fear, but also a fierce determination. Elena's legs shook not from relief, but from the reality of what she was seeing, her husband, alive, standing before her, and the knowledge that everything she had believed for the past week had been a lie. You're alive, she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. The crash, the funeral, all of it? Daniel took a deep breath, his hands still on her shoulders. It was staged. I found out Victor and the police chief were planning something big. They needed me gone. The crash, the death certificate, the sealed coffin, it was all part of their plan. I had to disappear. To protect you. That's why I sent the message. Elena's mind reeled. Her husband had been hiding, alone, fearing for his life, while she had been surrounded by people who might have been plotting against them both. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, her voice a mixture of anger and desperation. I couldn't risk it, he said. They would have found you too. I've been trying to figure out a safe way to bring you here without putting you in danger. Her chest tightened. So all this time, the grief, the funeral, the people pretending. Yes, Daniel interrupted softly. It was all a trap. And now, they know where we are. Elena's gaze darted to the shadows outside. In the distance, the faint glow of headlights appeared, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of engines and shouting. Her heart leapt into her throat. They found us, Daniel whispered, urgency lacing his voice. He grabbed her hand. We don't have a choice. We run. Now, Elena nodded, gripping his hand tightly. Fear surged through her, but beneath it was a spark of resolve. Together, they slipped into the darkness, leaving the cabin behind. The funeral had been only the beginning, a carefully orchestrated illusion. But now, side by side, they were ready to fight back, ready to uncover the truth, and ready to survive. In that moment, Elena realized the world she thought she knew no longer existed. Everything was a lie, and the only way forward was through the chaos. With Daniel at her side, against everyone who had betrayed them, the hunt had begun.